All right, Matt, so can you see the desktop?
Yeah, we can see everything. We can see everything great.
Okay.
We're gonna mute ourselves and let you take over the show now.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, first of all, welcome everyone. If you don't know my name is Professor Tom Luibel, and I did my Practicum e-portfolio in using WordPress, and if you need the URL for that, it's just eportfolio.wordpress.com. There is a home page with a little introductory video, but I'm going to step right into Standard 1. So as you know, Standard 1 is the instructor knows and understands current effective practices for online teaching that support student success and can apply that knowledge to the design and implementation of his or her course. The instructor can cogently discuss barriers to and support of student success within the online environment. The syllabus and our course materials include explicit policies and procedures such as communication policy that address and support regular and effective contact. The instructor incorporates tools and or strategies to assess student readiness. So basically my reflection on Standard 1 was that, I've taught for the past 10 years, and with progressing through the @ONE courses, it's given me an opportunity to expand on how I can effectively deliver and design online courses that I teach. I kind of learned this by scratch or by doing way back in the day, way back when Blackboard was actually a free application. So I did have some gaps in the technology I was using and the methodology, so I'm grateful to have taken these courses. What I've learned is that online courses are reliant on a myriad of technologies for their effective delivery. And it's critical that online courses are available to all students and learning styles. At the same time, these multiple technologies can be difficult for students to access, navigate, and troubleshoot. There is somewhat of a learning curve. I emphasize to students that in the course orientation the importance of how to properly configure their computer systems in order to be successful in online courses. Technology questions range from hardware, software, connection, course management system to the previous issues combined. It can be all those or any one of those. There are times when I take the role of a help desk support, especially at peak times during the beginning of the semester. And I've tried to ameliorate that somewhat with an orientation. It's important that the students are reassured in these situations and directed to the resources that will help them get a resolution. Students don't like to be confused and don't like to not get answers. Experience in the @ONE courses have taught me that effective course design, clear course policies and procedures, and good communication are ways to scaffold online students for success. So I sent out a pre-semester welcome letter, and this is typically a week before the course starts. And what I do here is I let them know what they're going to be needing and what's to be expected, and then I open up Blackboard for them. There's no assignments. They can do the orientation if they like. And then I let them know what books and required materials, kind of welcome them to the course. And I found that communicating with students, especially with email, is vital for success in the course. And one of the things I do is I set an email protocol and communications response expectancy. So over the years, I've learned that students need to include their first name and their last name, their student ID, course number, and section number in all the emails to me. I've gotten a myriad of emails, and I don't know who they're from, so I've kind of set this email protocol. And then at the same time, I've set a communications response expectancy. So I tell the students I'll respond to them Monday through Friday. This is a course policy, except on holidays. And most of the time I respond much faster than 24 hours. But at the latest, they'll get a response from me for 24 hours. I also let the students know early on, any students with special needs, I make them feel welcome, and I let them know that I'm here to help them with their education and what we have to offer. And our policy at Jefferson College is that they need to contact the instructor within the first 2 weeks of the course. And then I provide for them the Disability Support Services link. And I just kind of reassure them that I'm on their side and I'm going to help them and accommodate them so that they have an opportunity to learn also. I also, in my syllabus, have an instructor role policy. I want to let them know that I'm going to be actively involved in the course and how I will interact with them. I want to provide a framework of the preferred manner and form of instructor interaction and set important expectations for an online course. So I have that policy, tell them I look forward to meeting them and that I'm here to answer questions, and I just want to give them confident and responsive answers or direct them to the resources they need. I also have a regular and effective contact policy where this is my voice in the class, whether the voice manifests itself in what I've designed instructionally, or whether they're talking to me on the phone, or whether they're interacting with on a discussion board, or whether they're doing a Skype conference or on a lecture. So I have the regular effective contact policy, and the goal here is to be the equivalent of a face-to-face course. But I also talk to them about course participation, how it's vital in an online course, and how their presence will be counted. What does participation mean? It does not mean that you simply log in. What it means is that you participate actively, consistently in the lectures, the discussions, the individual and group assignments, and you need to log in regularly. You need to, it's suggested 3 to 4 times a week. You need to check your email. You need to participate in the lectures. You need to complete your assignments. And you need to be a regular contributor to the post and the discussion board. And I tell them that if you've missed more than 2 weeks, you may be subject to being dropped. However, if they choose to drop, they need to do it through admissions and then notify me. I also tell them about kind of the commitment for assignments. This is a 4-unit course. It will be the same as a face-to-face course. You've got about 12 to 15 hours per week. Much of that time will be spent reading text, analyzing what you've read, taking regular quizzes, completing skill-based simulations, completing graded application projects, working with classmates, using Blackboard, discussion board, teaming up with your fellow classmates and to complete group projects, and using social media tools to complete other assignments. We also, this is a frequency. This is more of our instructor's handbook and in our DE plan, that I have to be a consistent presence, frequent presence in the course, and I have to maintain the same minimum hours and initiate contact that I would in a face-to-face course. And office hours are not considered part of that contact time. I also have an online orientation video, and then I also have an online readiness assessment. So there are a series of questions that can be asked, and then the students submit their answer, and then they get a percentage. And we really want the students to understand what's involved in taking an online course in terms of commitment, in terms of time management, in terms of technological setup, internet, and things like that. So we really want them to know what they're getting into. And then that concludes Standard 1. And any of these artifacts that you want to look at, by the way, you can just click on and they'll open up a new tab. All right, now on to Standard 2. The instructor uses a range of technologies, both within and outside the learning management system, that support student learning and engagement. The instructor incorporates tools that meet the content demands of the course. The instructor uses a variety of tools for communicating with students, delivering content, assessing student learning, and analyzing effective teaching. The instructor incorporates a variety of tools that meet the various learning needs of his or her students. So this standard, to me, is important because it focuses on implementing the correct technology tool and or learning tools that will achieve the desired learning outcomes. So what's the proper mix for these students? Also, to implement effective scaffolding strategies to assist all ability levels and all the different learning styles of students. I implement both proactive as well as reactive scaffolding to support student learning. So I'm constantly taking the pulse of the course, and that's by looking at the data, looking at the feedback, and seeing if there's any technical problems, if something's not explained properly. So an example of proactive scaffolding would be enabling features such as practice modes for mastery learning and providing hints and tips for greater projects. Discussion questions in Blackboard Full Grade Center provide insight on how individual students and the class as a whole are progressing. So I look at this. If trends appear, then the instructor can implement scaffolding strategies in real time to address any deficiencies. I also use surveys to provide insight into areas that students may be having trouble with. And I've found that anonymous surveys, the students typically talk a little bit more freely. I email a progress report about 3 times a semester to individual students. It's to assist the students in taking ownership of their learning. An online instructor needs to be a data and outcomes century to amplify successful learning outcomes for all learning styles. So I let them know ahead of time what my physical or on-land campus hours are and what my virtual office hours are. I make myself available to Skype. I do have a Skype policy about requests for Skype conferences that are outside the regularly scheduled office hours. I ask that we confirm it by an email a week before. I have a general discussions forum where they can post questions, problems, suggestions, and insights, and I encourage the students not to post confidential information, but to be helpful. And I want to include them as a community in solving whatever problems arise, but I am ultimately the authoritative moderator for this. So I do scan that and I'm notified when my message. I also look at, this is from a previous class, I've tried to look at the Grade Center to see who's logging in, to take a look at activity. I do have some learning aids in the My IT Lab simulated environment where they can read, watch, and practice so that they can do some mastery learning. I want to give them plenty of opportunities to practice and plenty of opportunities to succeed. There are some, one of the best I've found is the practice where they'll be asked a series of questions, they'll be asked to perform a task. If they're unsure, the program will guide them through it and tell them what to do and what to input, and then they can go back and try it on their own. And I found this to be very, very helpful, and the students like it. And then we also have greater projects that are involved in complex, and I provide hints in the instructions and some tips on typically questions where if they don't know where they're going with a question or not quite sure what to do, I provide these hints so that they can look at the solution. The solution is in PDF, so they can't see the formulas. But they can look at these hints and tips, and this will help them through some of the complex performance-based assessments and greater projects. And then I also do a survey. This is the survey that I ask them to complete after the orientation. List 3 new things that you've learned. Time management is one of the things that I emphasize, especially for new students. And then I ask them if you've ever taken an online course before. Also, I provide some videos for the MyIT Lab on how to complete a training simulation, how to access the learning aids and the accessibility toolbar, and then also how to complete and submit a grader project. Now on to standard 3. The instructor knows and understands the value of active learning, participation, and collaboration within the online classroom, applies this knowledge to the design of his or her course. The instructor incorporates a variety of tools that support interaction and community. The instructor promotes active learning through collaborative activities. The instructor facilitates and monitors appropriate student interactions. The instructor fosters an environment that welcomes and engages individual learners. So really one of the goals in my courses is to build a sense of community early on and reduce the isolation of online students. One of the things that I do is the first discussion assignment is an introduction, and it gives opportunities for the peer and the instructor for collegial exchange of ideas. They can get to know each other. And I want them to list why they're taking the course, a little bit about themselves, what time management strategies they're going to use, list the goals they have for the course, and reply to each other's initial posts. And then I use this information to place students into groups and to build a sense of community. I also believe that timely feedback is very important for online students. I try to personalize the feedback for each individual student, and students can view the comments in Blackboard in the gradebook. They have online access to the gradebook and can view grades and comments at any time throughout the semester. I also integrate some learning activities outside of the campus CMS LMS. In our case, it's Blackboard. This is to promote community, team building, active learning, master learning activities, and the achievement of master level competency. Some examples that I use are Google Drive and MyIT Lab. This course is unique. It has both a concepts component and an applications component. It's important to provide students with tools and individual/group learning experience that they would encounter in a business environment. The MyIT Lab environment allows students to engage in active and master learning activities and that provide detailed feedback. The applications course, portion of this course uses Microsoft Office. You also have to use the live application as well as the simulation. This environment includes learning aids and accessibilities for all learning needs. MyIT Lab also provides instant feedback and guided practice as an option for students as they progress through the learning activities. Students are also assigned grader projects where they work with live applications to complete projects that are submitted for grading. I also use Google Drive for students. I post a lot of electronic documents there and then used for group projects where collaboration occurs online with peers. Each group evaluates their themselves as an individual as well as other group members' performance using the survey application. And then we use discussion boards, again, the general discussion, insights, and problems. I have an example here of a discussion prompt and another example of the feedback I give students. And then here's an example of a group project where they'll do a survey, some statistical analysis, data visualization. And then I also have an artifact of MyIT Lab, and it's designed in a folder metaphor so that they can access it. Here's an example of a quiz. Here's an example of a skill-based assignment. And in this skill-based assignment, it gives them both the learning aids and accessibility, also the instructions, and they can do this multiple times until they master it. Typically, in this case, there's 27 questions they'll go through. And I like to design it, kind of chunk it so that they get the concepts, they get practice, and then they get the live application. I'm on standard 4. Instructor knows and understands the importance of teacher and student communication, applies this knowledge. Start to pick up the pace here. In an online course, you don't typically see the instructor face-to-face, so you're using multiple electronic means, whether synchronous or asynchronous, to facilitate communication. I've taught a variety of courses online, from beginning computer information systems to more advanced programming and operating systems courses. So one of the things I think is very important is to know your audience, your students, and their level of technological proficiency with the communication tools being used. I always try to put myself in the student's seat and think about the entry-level behaviors that are necessary to be able to communicate with me as an instructor effectively. Modeling the communication in terms of content and protocol to students, regardless of the tool being used, facilitate effective and engaging communication. So I set the norms and set the parameters, and then we follow those. I also think that my communication effectiveness is an iterative process. I'm trying to assess it constantly to make sure that the most effective tools are being used that students are comfortable with. Students need communication that is responsive and predictable in an online course to support the successful learning. So again, I have my email protocol, what's expected, how you should set up your email to email me, and what the expectancy of responses. And then I just have an example of a student emailing me with a question, and then I email that student back. I also have office hours posted so they know if they're on campus they can come see me, or they can set up an appointment, or we can do something via Skype. Skype offers a little bit more nuanced environment. CC Confer for my lectures. I also send them out weekly announcements on Sundays so that they can preview and start to prep for this week's readings and this week's assignments. Here's Skype, my Skype protocol. And then I have a course calendar. They can look at how the course is going to flow, like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday flow with the assignments due on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I found that to be successful. And I let them know about my plagiarism policy, that you have to do your own work and you have to submit your own work. And then I have the Southwestern College Standards of Student Conduct to let them know that there are consequences and to think seriously about this. Also, in my syllabus, I have an etiquette policy about how we're going to conduct ourselves in the discussion questions and how we're going to be respectful and collegial and academic. And I have another example of a discussion prompt again, the discussion rubric, and then finally, and then also the feedback and the general discussion questions form. So if something falls outside of the realm of an assignment or they notice something, then they can contact me on that. The next standard is standard 5. The instructor knows, understands, and facilitates legal, ethical, and safe technological use. The instructor knows and follows guidelines for fair use, copyright, acceptable use. The content, grading, and feedback comply with FERPA. The instructor discusses and incorporates etiquette within the course. So this is a very important standard because it establishes the framework for both the instructor, the institution, and the student on the ethical, legal, safe, and acceptable use of copyrighted and digitally rights-managed content. Students need to be made aware of what constitutes fair use in the classroom. Academic integrity and etiquette set the boundaries on how students are to conduct the composition of their assignments in a fair, ethical, and legal way and their respective behavior. Students also need to be informed about what the potential penalties are for violating these policies. The grades for each individual student can be accessed through a secure authentication system, the CMS LMS. There's the Lincoln Blackboard grades that the students use to view their academic progress, important feedback, and inquire with the instructor if they have any questions or comments about a particular grade or assignment. This can all be accomplished in a secure environment that protects the student's rights and privacy. So I have the district's copyright and fair use policy and a link to the site. Again, the plagiarism policy that's in the syllabus, the standards of conduct policy again, the district's FERPA policy for privacy, and then I have an artifact that shows the grades links and Blackboard where they can click on that. Again, I re-emphasize the Medicaid policy and also the discussion rubric on, emphasizing, what's expected and how all the posts and responses must be unique and in the student's own words. They must do their own work, so to speak. All right, on to Standard 6. Instructor knows and understands the implications of the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 508 of the Federal Rehabilitation Act and ensures that course materials are accessible. Instructor provides a link to campus services and or discusses available services with the course. The instructor includes accessible material, including multimedia. The instructor is aware of accessible issues with the LMS. So this standard is an important aspect of online teaching because it emphasizes the importance of inclusion and accessibility. The online course content has to be delivered in formats and media that comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act and Sections 508 of the Federal Rehabilitation Act. As an instructor, I want to be approachable, especially to those students with special needs. The goal is to have all of my students have a successful learning experience. I treat each student's request with respect for their privacy and dignity. I'm fortunate in my institution to have such welcoming and responsive disability support services department. I drop off textbooks and other course materials for students to the Disability Support Services High Tech Center. They go out of their way to help students and instructors. So it all starts with the policy in the syllabus addressing students with special needs. This policy, by the way, is a district-wide policy that we have to include in our syllabus. Every course syllabus has to have this, and I also go over this in the orientation. And I just want to let students know that I'm here to help them on their educational journey any way I can. And then I provide a link both on the syllabus and in the Blackboard course management system to the college link to disability support services and all the services they offer. And then I also tell them about the Disability Support Services High Tech Center, Building 420, Room 421, where there's a lot of technology there to help them with whatever assisted needs they have. So there's, Dragon, there's Kurzweil, there's Skills, and this helps them with both their studying and it's a friendly environment for them so that they can do their work. Also in my IT lab, there are accessibility options, and I have an artifact illustrating that, and then they can go in and do the settings for, increase the size, have things read to them. So I also go over how to access and how to set those accessibility options. And then I have a presentation that's accessible. It's just a lecture presentation. And on to the next standard.
Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
Yes.
In the interest of time, we've got 4 more to go.
Yes. Sorry.
I was going to say, let's discuss the artifacts a little bit. You're doing a great job. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I know. I was just thinking that. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I'll do that.
No problem.
You should know the standards by now.
I'm going to mute myself now. Continue. Thank you.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, standard 7 has to do with assessments with formative and summative assessments, and I've included the student learning outcomes, which, by the way, just to note, we have concordance agreements and some other agreements. So these particular SLOs were passed down to us. So please don't judge me on how well they're written, because they were given to us by a CSU institution. So we kind of have to follow that. At any rate, so those are the SLOs. This course is really interesting because previous to taking the @1 certification courses, really didn't have a lot of summative. We had a lot of performance-based and formative, but we really didn't have a lot of summative. So I'll give you an example of a quiz, some feedback options. Then we have a performance assessment. Some of these performance assessments kind of straddle the fence between summative and formative. And the grader project they have to do live. Give you an example of the feedback, which is very good. It tells them by instruction what they did right or wrong. And then when I was in the course, I wrote a @1 performance assessment and rubric, and I really learned how to kind of reverse engineer a course, and then kind of work backwards from the equal sign with the learning outcomes. And this is very good. It really taught me how to chunk the information and kind of get at the granular level. So it was a very good exercise. And I think the detail and rigor and discipline of that have really made me take a different look at how I design courses. And then I again have the rubric and the discussion prompt, so they know what's expected of them and how they're going to be graded. Also the feedback. And then I send them out a progress report, tell them what, are they on course, are they not on course, send them out an email. Are they up to date, are they up to speed? And gotten really good feedback on that. The students really like that. So I do that typically about 3 times a semester on average, but other students may need it more often, depending if they're falling behind. Standard 8 is the collection of data, tracking data. I do want to point out one interesting thing that we do have in my department. We have kind of a cross-pollination of instructors. We collaborate on how to modify the outcomes when a situation comes up, and we kind of come to a collaborative consensus on kind of if we're going to make changes in real time. So again, I have the learning outcomes. We use the Blackboard Full Grade Center. I have a shot of kind of what I download and look at in my IT Lab Full Grade Center. What I do is I typically, once a week, I'll populate new scores back into Blackboard, because we don't have them synchronized right now because of some problems. Here's another survey, another way how we look at the information and the data. Also started kind of beta testing some item analysis since I took the Making Effective Online Assessments course. I really started to take a good hard look at using item analysis. And I just want to make one general comment about this particular standard. This standard is kind of both data-driven, intuition-driven, and phenomena-driven, especially with dealing with technology. So I think it's kind of important to take kind of a holistic view and not, let the data drive the decision sometimes, but sometimes there's some other factors that are involved. All right, the next standard, oops, I didn't want to do that, sorry. Standard 9, the instructor attends workshops or conferences. And I just want to point out quickly, I've been on the Distance Education Committee, and believe it or not, we have given birth to a distance education plan, to a new curriculum procedure, to a new handbook for the instructor, and we are adopting the OEI model for evaluating courses. So it's been quite a task, and it's been quite an education, and I'm glad I did it. Real quickly, I just wanted to point out that in my industry, computer information systems, one of the ways that I keep up is through the Gilmore Gang on TechCrunch, and they have a weekly podcast on what's happening in the industry, and these guys are and gals are excellent subject matter experts, and it's a great way for me to keep up and get it in a condensed format, kind of like the Reader's Digest version of what's happening in the tech field. And then I'm real proud of my other certifications. I think I've really had the bar raised on me as an instructor, and I'm beginning to do my pull-ups because of this course. So I really like that. I like the challenge. I like the rigor. And I like the fact I'm department chair. So it really helps me in hiring, and it really helps me in advising other instructors on what type of training and what's happening in the field. So I really like it. All right, standard 10. So on this standard, I try and block and chunk and organize the material for the students. It's kind of like getting on an airplane. We prepare for the flight, we get on, and then we take off, and then we fly, and then we come back and land. So I kind of use that metaphor, and I give them a welcome letter, weekly announcements. There's a course schedule within the syllabus that they can read. There's a course sequence. How's this course going to work? And kind of take a digital tour. And then I have a course calendar and try and chunk things on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. And then we'll always have the lectures. And this is so that the students can allocate their time. And I also emphasize to them that they need to be honest with themselves. And if they're an evening person, then set up your studying and preparation that way. And if you're a morning person, do it that way. But I want them to habituate these days and times where things are due, and so they can establish kind of their own rhythm. Outside of the LMS, I use a folder metaphor. I found that to be very helpful, so they know where their e-texts are, where their required assignments are. Here are just some examples of, when you click on a folder, here are the e-texts available to you, and of course there's assignments there. When you click on the required MIT lab assignments, what are my Excel, what are my Access, and what are my technology and action assignments. Here's just a little screenshot of the quizzes or the concepts. Here's another screenshot of a skill-based assignment. And then finally, both in MyIT Lab and in Blackboard, if an accommodation needs to be made, I can increase the time for a test or an assessment, and they can either take it in my class or they can go over to the high-tech center and take it. So that concludes the grand tour of Tom's e-portfolio. I hope I didn't miss a standard. I didn't talk too fast.
No, I believe we got them all in, Tom. Thank you.
Okay. It's a whirlwind.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm saying it's a whirlwind. I'm glad I'm done with that portion of it.
Well, I congratulate you on doing it well. Thank you. Before we take questions from everybody, because they're all unmuting their phones right now, let me just sincerely thank you for letting me interrupt there somewhere around Standard 6. You didn't break stride at all. You handled it marvelously well, and I appreciate that, and my apologies for doing so.
No, I get it. The pacing of this is kind of hard because you don't want to get too granular, and you don't want to get too too vague or too general. So I get it. Plus, like anybody in my family will say, and my wife, I'm not afraid to talk, so you can tell me to be. I think what happens as an instructor, you get really used to hearing yourself talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We always have the floor. So what's going to happen now is keep recording, and we're going to have some comments, have some questions for you. So it's a opportunity for some Q&A and so forth. I've been through your portfolio, so I'll tell you what. I'm going to offer up a couple of comments, if that's okay with everybody, and then I'll let others pop in on questions.
Before you start, Matt, I need to go. This is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
I need to leave. I just want to thank Tom for a great presentation.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
for your time.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, Sarah. So a couple of things. First of all, I appreciate what you did on the reflections. The two of us can talk a little bit more about that afterwards. But one of the things that I appreciated, and my notes are in standard 2 because this is where you addressed it primarily and then sort of have mentioned things down the road, was that you take this scaffolding approach so that you can assist all levels. And with regards to some of the things that you're doing there with technology and the LMS and Standard 2, there's lots of learning opportunities, and they're purposeful, and they're not overwhelming. And I think that's important for students when they take online classes. You also talked a little bit, I can't remember the standards, but you talked about reverse engineering. I think that was Standard 9 you were talking about professional development. But, so there's some concepts there that I'm seeing in your portfolio that I really like. And as far as any real questions on my end go, I'll give you another comment about Standard 5. It's some great work with the policies there. Your etiquette work and stuff like that. And so my only real question here in this regard is, how do you handle students who don't follow the etiquette rules? Is there some sort of follow-up on your end? How do you deal with that? Have you ever had that problem, actually?
Yeah, I've had that problem, and typically, it kind of goes from the nudging warning stage. I'll kind of, might have to suspend them their access to a discussion board, and then, get in contact with them. I typically send them an email and say, hey, look, I need to talk to you in person about what's going on. And then I try and, from there, I really try and dissect and discern, are they upset about something? Is there some situation I'm not aware of? And I really try and kind of play detective. But I'll lock them out until I get it, until I'm satisfied that it's a good situation. I have had another instructor who had to bring the campus police in because some threats were made. So, it runs the gamut of being, not understanding kind of the etiquette to, not being able to get along with people to, being mean and rude and obnoxious and, not carrying yourself in a collegial manner. So it's kind of, my approach is kind of an investigative, freeze them because, I can hit the pause button and nothing else will happen. And then I can kind of gradually figure out what's going on. And then, I've had, other instructors who've had these problems and, they've had a talk with the dean also. So,
yeah.
Okay. That's kind of the way I do it.
Thank you. I know there's some others who have some questions as well. So who wants to go first, Alice? Or Lene?
I am unmuted, and I just see the note here from Lene. Tom, I thought you did a great job. That was really fabulous. I very much echo what Matt said about how you're concerned with the level of the students right from the very beginning. And you stay in communication with them right through. I just think that's fabulous. models, the different types of communication, and the different activities. I have a question about challenges that you might have with different formats of the things that you're teaching, like an access. It looks like you were teaching access, and did you have some Excel in there?
Yes.
And how do you make those types of things accessible, or are they accessible within IT Lab?
In the simulated environment, they are accessible. But in the live application, depending on the version and the settings, Microsoft has tried to make it more accessible. That's one of the reasons why we kind of have the high-tech center. So if there's a real problem, I can have them do their work in there. But if they're online, I typically coordinate with our high-tech center to kind of help navigate those problems that arise.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I got to say, if you met these people, they treat you like family. I mean, they're really good, really good.
Great.
We're very fortunate.
Okay, that was really my only question. Thanks.
You're welcome. And nice to talk with you.
So I guess that means that it's my turn, and so I want to compliment you on the actual design of the portfolio, and then I'm going to ask you for something else with the design of the portfolio. So I'm going to compliment, and then I'm going to ask. The design of the portfolio is very, very clean, and I'm a Mac user, and so when I first looked at your portfolio, I felt very, very comfortable and at home, and just really the way that you walk through, the way that you've labeled the reflections, and the way that you've labeled the artifacts is so clean and just kind of nice to walk through. And so I really enjoyed watching it unfold. And I've liked what you've done with WordPress, and feel so sorry for the people that are using Google Sites. That said,
I flamed out on Google Sites. I must tell you, I just So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So that said, one of the things that I think that your portfolio overall needs more of, you have so many wonderful, really unique and interesting artifacts, and then you have some others that I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that. So for instance, one of your artifacts is the Skype login. And your Skype login looks like my Skype login, looks like anybody else's Skype login. So I'm not seeing how that's an artifact. And so one thing that would kind of help me is if you would include a little bit about each artifact. So your portfolio has to stand alone, right? So if someone didn't listen to your presentation, or if someone didn't know anything about, is it Blackboard? Is that what you use, Blackboard?
Yes.
Okay, so if they didn't know about Blackboard, which I don't know anything about Blackboard, it's the one course management system I have not taught on. And so like for instance, in one of your students, you were showing something that you used to check like the grade center, and it was like just a list of dates saying that you had access on those dates. I need a description. I have to have a description. I need you to tell me why. I need you to tell me what it is. I just don't know.
Okay. I think that's a very fair, constructive criticism. And I think on my part, I can address that pretty easily. I guess, the instructor, giving this presentation, the instructor in me wanted to focus on the artifact and my voice, but I see your point. It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess
I agree.
Some people who only have a couple of artifacts. I mean, like literally, some people have not been teaching very long and have not been teaching online very long, and so they almost have a slightly easier task because they don't have the institutional history nor the artifact reservoir to have a nice beefy portfolio like this, right? And so
Right.
they're able to like very quickly in just a paragraph say, well, this is what I've done so far. But you have a lot here, and so that means you're going to have to talk us through it.
Right. Yeah. It's the curse of having learned to teach online way back when. From all these
Yes.
iterations, course management systems, and things like this. It also is difficult from the person taking this to discern, the difference between, what's good enough. That's kind of hard to discern. So my thinking was if I overdid it, at least they'd understand the nuances. There's a lot of nuances. I guess my point is there's a lot of nuances to teaching online. I mean, especially navigating all the technological, all the pedagogical, all of the legal and policies
Right.
thing, and let alone try and make it a good user experience. And I guess for me, maybe I should come up with a motto, but I'm just trying to make a good user experience. That's kind of my goal.
Well, what's evidence from your portfolio is that you're an excellent teacher. And so I think that that's clear in your portfolio. I actually feel kind of a little sheepish and bad telling you that I'm going to ask for some revisions. But the problem is
fine.
That one of the reasons why I can see that you're a great teacher is because I'm a great teacher. I actually know Matt and Alice very well. I know that they're really good teachers. And so we're reading in a lot of your artifacts. We're taking our expertise and using them to interpret your artifacts. And that's great. But we want you to do some of that interpretation for us. And I want to mention one other thing. So I was in the very first group of people that went through the certification program. And I have been working as first a guide and now the coordinator ever since then. So there's not a time in @ONE history where I did not work in the certification program. And so the interesting thing I've noticed this particular group, however, is that you have all got some beautiful screenshots. And you've used the screenshots in really rich and interesting ways. I mean, I just think that the screenshot software is just so much easier to use now that people are integrating it seamlessly in their portfolios. The problem with that, however, is that a lot of people are using screenshots now instead of the actual artifact. So when I look at a screenshot of your disability statement, for instance, if I have a screen reader, I can't read it. It's an image. I can't read it. And so I have to rely on the alt tag. So this is another reason why that the introduction to the artifact is so important, because the introduction to the artifact will help you describe what the artifact is and what we're missing if we can't actually see the image of the screenshot. And one other thing that's, because you've done a great job of making sure that you have alt text with every single one of your images. I mean, it's my job to go through and check those. It's not exactly the most fun job. Believe me, I'd like to do something else. But you've done a great job of making sure that every single image has alt text. But the actual screenshot is still far richer than the alt text. There's no way you can capture your entire policy in the alt text, right? So in certain places, you link right afterward to the syllabus. And the syllabus is a PDF that's readable. But in other places, you have screenshots where you don't have that link. And so that description becomes, oh, there's one that just passed us, the readiness test, I think that was.
Yes.
And then also, you have a couple videos that are not captioned.
Yes, I had a problem, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if it was accidentally deleted, so I'll get that fixed. I'm trying to source one of them. I was kind of in a panic, but it's got to be somewhere, and I'll find it.
Okay, so
I'll fix that.
We have several. Yeah, we have several people that can help you too. We're very good captioners. So if you need help captioning, We have a variety of
No, I
different
think
ways
I
that we can help
had a beautiful caption one, and it was just the way I wanted it. I don't know if it got corrupted or lost or what, but I'll find it. I want to just make one comment. You know, from my side of the street, one of the difficulties is kind of this presentation, the assumptions for the presentation too are hard to discern sometimes. What you know, my audience, you know, highly, you know, skilled and experienced in online learning, you know, so I'm kind of, that was one of the challenges. But, you know, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, so I think that one of the reasons why we do the artifact review meeting is to give you a sense of, you know, a live audience. You get your guide as a live audience to see their reception. And I haven't looked at your artifact review summary that Matt sent you after that in a long time. It's been weeks. But I'm almost positive, because I've worked with Matt for quite some time, I could pull it up and check, but I'm almost positive that he told you that you're going to need to discuss your artifacts. There's going to need to be some place in there where you discuss your artifacts.
Yeah, and I was trying to do it through the lead-in, and then I can break that apart. That's not a problem. I can just break it apart and reallocate it to the artifacts. That's not a problem. That's just,
right.
You know,
so I mean,
it's kind of a design decision that I made.
Yeah, I mean, it's so clean and nice and neat.
If you look in the body of the paragraphs, it describes the artifacts, but I made assumptions that maybe that's too hard to follow, so it might be easier to take that text and put it directly above and below the artifacts.
Yeah, or that you actually number the artifacts and or some other way, you know, indicate which artifacts you're talking about and very, very clearly name them. Okay. So that you make sure that every single artifact is discussed. You know, unfortunately, you're talking to a writing instructor and a communication instructor, right? And so we're going to err on the other side. We're going to make you say, like, if you use an example, we're going to make you explain every single example. It's just the nature of the beast, right? But we do want you to describe the artifact.
Okay.
Yeah. Alice?
Yes.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah,
my suggestion is think about a dean that would be looking at this who doesn't really understand distance education, and explain the artifacts very clearly for that dean, keeping in mind that you're showing off how well you teach online, and this is why you're using these particular artifacts. And all apologies to any deans out there, but they're very busy. They don't have time to read through all of the paragraphs. So Lene's idea of numbering and then just putting a little blurb above each artifact, this demonstrates blah, 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 then that might make it easier.
Okay. Good suggestion.
So overall, I guess it's a pleasure to read through and look at the accumulation of artifacts from someone who obviously enjoys teaching online. You know, your attention to detail. Sometimes we go through a portfolio and in a person's communication policy, there's more typos than there are clicks, right? And when we look through yours, it's clean. It's the details are there. So it's really, really wonderful to look through that. We just need a little more description. And especially since that it's so heavy with screenshots, the screenshots are going to have to be described, unfortunately. Any last questions or comments?
Are there any other comments?
Overall, a terrific job.
Yeah.
Make those changes. Make those changes that Lene suggested, and this would be fabulous.
Solid presentation. I tell you what, Tom, let's hang out for a couple more minutes afterwards. I'll ask Renee and Alice to log off if that's not too rude, and you and I can talk about a couple more things or answer any questions you might have. Does that sound okay to everybody?
That sounds great.
All right.
And thanks, Tom, for meeting with us tonight and for inviting us to your presentation.
Oh,
yes,
welcome.
it was a pleasure.
Bye, Matt.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Okay.
I'm going to hit here.
Let's see.
Hold on. Give me a minute.
And Tom, can you hear me? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm good. I can hear you, Tom.
Hey,
listen.
Matt, how do I get out of the screen sharing mode?
Pardon me?
How do I get out of the screen sharing mode?
You can actually you go ahead and stop the recording too. And then the screen sharing mode is in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. There's two squares put together.
Okay. Hold on one second.
And
Let me close all these things.
a nice job with those, by the way.
Yeah, were you guys able to see what I was?
Yeah. Yeah, it worked very well.
Okay, let me get out of
So go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay, so two squares.
Somewhere in the upper left-hand corner of the, let's see, if you move your cursor up to the top gray bar, up to where the normally the URL might be, but keep going up. You can do it that way too. There it is. And the tools, application sharing.
Okay, stop recording.
Stop sharing. Stop recording him.
Okay, there, and I can go stop recording now.
Uh-huh.
Got it.
And I think